The sun was just rising over the dusty streets of a small town in Iran. Birds chirped faintly, but there was a strange stillness in the air, like the world itself was holding its breath. Inside a quiet house on the edge of the village, 50 Christians huddled together. Their names were spread across generations. Miriam, a kind woman with gentle eyes; Daniel, a young boy who loved to draw; Layla, who whispered prayers every morning; and Samuel, a brave man who tried to make everyone smile even when the world felt dark. They didn't know it yet, but today, their lives were about to be tested in a way no one could imagine. Just hours ago, men in black uniforms had stormed the village. Their faces were hard, cruel, and full of anger. They shouted that anyone who followed Jesus must be punished. The villagers tried to hide, but these men were not easy to escape. Miriam had seen the fear in their eyes, yet she held Daniel's hand tightly and whispered, "Do not be afraid. Jesus is with us, even if we can't see him." The soldiers dragged the Christians to an open field just outside the village. The air was thick with fear. The men barked orders. "Dig. Dig your own graves. Tonight, you will pay for your faith." Shock and panic spread like wildfire. The ground was cold, the soil hard, and the sky seemed darker than usual, as if it knew something terrible was about to happen. Some of the villagers trembled, while others cried silently. Daniel looked up at Samuel, his eyes wide. Will we die?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Samuel knelt beside him, brushing the boy's hair back. "No, Daniel, we trust in Jesus. He never leaves his children," he said, though inside, his heart pounded like a drum. The soldiers laughed as they watched the Christians dig. Their hands scraped against the earth, stones cutting their skin. Sweat ran down their faces, but they did not stop praying. Layla whispered in her small, trembling voice, "Jesus, save us. Please, come to us now." Hours passed. The graves were nearly ready, long and deep. The sun climbed higher, beating down on them with a relentless heat. Exhaustion made their muscles ache, and fear made their hearts pound like thunder. Yet, somehow, amid the terror, a strange calm filled their hearts. They began to pray together, softly at first, then louder, as if their voices could reach the heavens. Miriam looked at the sky, tears running down her face. "He is here," she whispered. "I can feel him." Suddenly, the wind picked up. Not the ordinary wind that swept through the village, but a gentle, powerful breeze that seemed to wrap around them like a hug. The soldiers blinked, confused, shielding their eyes from the sunlight that suddenly seemed brighter, almost golden. Then it happened. From nowhere, a sound of rushing water echoed across the field. It was not from a river or stream, it was something much bigger, something miraculous. The ground beneath the soldiers' feet began to shake slightly. Their boots sank into soft mud that had appeared out of nowhere, and their weapons slipped from their hands. Panic spread among them, confusion in their eyes. The Christians froze, unsure of what they were witnessing. But inside, each heart began to swell with hope. Daniel whispered, "Jesus, you came." And at that moment, Miriam felt a warmth that chased away all fear. It was like someone had wrapped them in love so strong that no evil could touch them. Samuel helped Daniel and the others stand. "Do not be afraid," he said firmly. "He is here. He will not let us go." And even as the soldiers stumbled, tripped, and tried to regain control, the Christians saw something impossible. The men could no longer move forward, their courage gone, their anger fading as if it had been washed away by the very presence of God. The field, once full of fear and death, began to feel different. The graves they had been forced to dig seemed like nothing compared to the miracle that was happening around them. Layla fell to her knees, hands lifted to the sky. "Thank you, Jesus," she cried, her voice carrying over the field like music. Time seemed to stretch and bend. What had felt like hours passed in minutes. The soldiers, terrified and powerless, finally fled, stumbling over each other in their rush. The Christians stood together, hearts pounding, bodies weak but spirits stronger than ever. They had faced death, and yet here they were, untouched. Miriam took Daniel's hand again, looking at each friend and neighbor around her. "Do you see?" she said softly. "We are never alone. He is always with us, even when it feels like the world is against us." The sun continued to rise, shining golden light over the field, and for the first time that day, the Christians felt true peace. They knew that the days ahead would not always be easy, but one thing was certain: no weapon, no evil, no fear could ever separate them from the love of Jesus. And so, trembling but unbroken, they began walking back. The village looked smaller than ever when the Christians returned, but their hearts were lighter. Word of what had happened in the field had begun to spread, whispered from house to house, carried on the wind. Some villagers stared in awe, others in fear. No one could understand how 50 ordinary people had survived certain death, but everyone agreed one thing: something miraculous had happened. Miriam, Daniel, Layla, and Samuel gathered in the center of the village. They wanted to pray together, to thank Jesus again for saving them. But even as they kneeled and closed their eyes, a shadow of fear lingered in their hearts. The men in black uniforms were still out there, somewhere, and though they had been stopped by the miracle, the Christians knew this could only be a temporary reprieve. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the edge of the village. Everyone jumped. Children cried. The animals in the pen scattered in panic. Samuel's eyes narrowed. "They've come back," he whispered, his voice trembling with anger and fear at the same time. The soldiers were not alone this time. They had brought reinforcements, men who carried heavy weapons and wore masks that made their faces look like monsters. The Christians had no choice but to hide. They ran into the nearby olive grove, branches scratching their arms and faces, hearts pounding like drums. In the shadows of the trees, Daniel clutched Miriam's hand. "Why do they hate us so much?" he asked, his small voice breaking. Miriam bent down, brushing the dirt from his hair. "Because they do not understand love," she said softly. "But Jesus loves us. He will not let them win." Hours passed as the Christians crouched under the trees. They whispered prayers, asking for strength, courage, and protection. Lila's voice trembled, yet each word felt like a lifeline, a rope pulling them away from despair. Suddenly, something strange happened. A soft glow began to appear among the branches. It was faint at first, like moonlight shining through clouds, but soon it grew brighter. The Christians looked at each other, eyes wide. Samuel whispered, "Could it be him?" Miriam nodded, tears forming in her eyes. The glow seemed to move closer, surrounding them in warmth and light. The fear that had gripped their hearts began to melt away. Then came a sound that made their hearts leap. A gentle, powerful voice, calm and full of love, saying, "Do not fear. I am with you." Daniel gasped. "Jesus!" he cried. He fell to his knees, feeling a wave of peace wash over him. The others joined him, holding hands, praying together. Outside the grove, the soldiers tried to find them. They shouted, stomped, and aimed their weapons, but every time they stepped closer, they stumbled as if invisible hands pushed them back. Their anger turned to panic. No matter how hard they tried, they could not reach the Christians. Inside the grove, Miriam felt her strength return. She looked around at her friends, their faces pale but glowing with hope. "We will not be afraid," she said. "Not today, not ever. He has saved us once, and he will save us again if we trust him." Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. The trees swayed violently, and the soldiers screamed as the earth seemed to rise and fall like waves. Branches snapped, dust flew, and the Christians huddled together, holding hands tighter than ever. It was terrifying, yet somehow, it was beautiful too. It was a display of power far beyond anything they had ever known. When the shaking stopped, the grove was silent. The soldiers lay scattered, too frightened to move, their weapons useless in their hands. The Christians slowly stood, trembling, but their spirits soared. Daniel looked up at the sky, smiling through his tears. "He really is with us," he whispered. Miriam held her arms around the group, feeling the warmth of hope spread through them. "We have seen it," she said. "We have felt his love. No one can take it from us. No one can touch our hearts as long as we believe." As the sun began to set, painting the sky with colors like fire and gold, the Christians started walking back to the village again. They knew there would be more challenges ahead, but now they had something that could never be taken away: unshakable faith, courage born from love, and the knowledge that Jesus had already fought for them once, and would do it again. That night, as they prayed together under the stars, each heart beat in rhythm with hope. They were safe, for now, but even in the safety, they knew the story was far from over. Their journey had just begun, and every step would be guided by the same power that had saved them from the graves they were forced to dig. The Christians had barely returned to the village when news arrived that chilled their hearts. A villager ran through the streets, shouting, "They're coming! More soldiers are marching this way!" Panic spread, but Miriam, Samuel, Layla, and the others refused to let fear rule them. They gathered in the small church at the center of the village, the worn wooden doors creaking as they shut them tight. Inside, the air smelled of candle wax and old wood. The 50 Christians huddled together, holding hands, praying. Daniel's small face was pale, but his eyes shone with determination. "Jesus," he whispered, "please protect us. Don't let them hurt anyone." Lila's voice trembled, but she added, "Keep us safe, like you did before." Samuel looked at the others, his jaw tight. "We've faced death before," he said. "And we survived. We have faith. We will survive again." Miriam nodded. "Yes," she said, "He is with us. Nothing can take that away." Hours passed. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows through the stained glass windows. Outside, the sound of marching grew louder. The soldiers had returned, more numerous than before. They were angry, ruthless, and determined to end the Christians' lives. But inside the church, something miraculous began to happen. A soft, warm light filled the room, though there were no candles lit. The Christians felt a presence so strong it was almost tangible, like a hug that wrapped around every heart. The fear that had clawed at them for hours began to melt away. Even Daniel, who had been trembling, felt courage bloom inside him. Suddenly, a loud crash shook the doors. The soldiers had begun to break them down. The Christians prayed louder, their voices rising in unison, calling upon Jesus for protection. And then, in an instant, something incredible happened. The doors, though battered and broken, would not open. No matter how hard the soldiers pushed or struck, the wood held firm. It was as if an invisible force had surrounded the church, guarding it. The soldiers screamed in frustration, their weapons useless against the unseen power. Miriam fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Jesus," she cried. "You are here. You are with us." Samuel held Daniel close, whispering, "See, we are never alone. He fights for us." Outside, the soldiers were in chaos. Their anger turned to fear, then to panic. Horses bolted, men tripped over one another, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to shift. Some swore they saw walls of light blocking their path. Others claimed the wind pushed them back. Whatever it was, the Christians knew it was Jesus, protecting them once again. Inside, the group huddled together, hearts pounding, praying for strength. Miriam led them in a chant, repeating over and over, "He is with us. He will not let us fall." Daniel's small voice joined in. Lila's trembled but grew stronger, and soon all 50 voices rang out, echoing through the church and into the night sky. Time seemed to stretch. Hours passed like minutes, minutes like seconds. Every second was filled with tension, fear, and hope. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, silence fell. The soldiers had fled. Some said they ran into the desert, some claimed they vanished into the shadows, but one thing was certain: they could not touch the Christians. When the villagers peeked through the windows, they saw the 50 Christians standing together, unharmed, glowing in the soft light of faith. Miriam raised her hands to the sky. "Look," she shouted, "He has saved us again." Samuel knelt beside Daniel, holding his hands. "Remember this moment, my boy," he said. "No matter how dark it gets, there is always light. No matter how strong the enemy seems, Jesus is stronger." Daniel smiled through his tears, feeling hope like he never had before. That night, the villagers gathered quietly outside the church, marveling at what they had witnessed. Stories of the miracle spread like wildfire, reaching neighboring towns. People whispered about the power that had stopped death itself, about the love that had shielded 50 lives from certain doom. Inside the church, the Christians prayed long into the night. They knew their journey was far from over. More dangers would come. More threats would test their faith. But now they understood something deeply and completely. Their lives were not their own. They belonged to Jesus, who had already proven he would protect them, no matter the odds. Miriam looked around at the faces of her friends, each one filled with courage and awe. "We have seen it," she said softly. "We have felt his power. And no matter what happens next, we will never forget that love is stronger than fear." As the stars twinkled above the village, the 50 Christians slept in peace for the first time in days, hearts full of hope, spirits unbroken, and faith that could move mountains. They had survived again, but the story was far from over. Every shadow, every threat, would bait a morning sun rose over the village, but it brought no comfort. Rumors of the soldiers' return spread like wildfire. This time, they were not alone. They had brought strangers from faraway lands, men trained in cruelty and armed with deadly weapons. The villagers whispered in fear, and even the bravest Christians felt their hearts pound with dread. Miriam, Samuel, Layla, Daniel, and the others gathered in the church once more. The building, though old and fragile, had become their sanctuary, a place where fear could not touch them. Samuel looked at everyone with determination. "We have faced death before," he said firmly. "We survived, we trusted, and we were saved. We will do it again." But this time, the enemy was smarter. They had watched the miracles before and knew that fear alone would not break the Christians. They surrounded the village, blocking every exit. Horses stomped, shouting echoed, and the ground shook as they advanced. The Christians could hear the cruel laughter of men determined to end them. Daniel clutched Miriam's hand tightly. "Will Jesus save us again?" he whispered, eyes wide with fear. Miriam knelt beside him, brushing his hair back. "He will," she said softly. "We have no reason to doubt. He is here, even if we cannot see him." The soldiers broke through the village gates and rushed toward the church. They were unstoppable, their weapons ready. But as they reached the doors, a strange sound filled the air, a deep, rumbling vibration, like the voice of the earth itself. The soldiers froze, unsure of what was happening. Inside the church, a warm light spread, brighter than ever before. The Christians fell to their knees, praying with every ounce of faith they had. Miriam led them, her voice strong and unwavering. "Jesus, protect us. We trust in you." Layla joined in, her small voice trembling but clear. "Save us, Lord. Save us now." Suddenly, the doors slammed shut with a force that made the soldiers stagger backward. They tried to push them open, but the wood was unyielding. Invisible hands seemed to hold them at bay. Panic spread among them. Some tried to climb the walls, some fired their weapons, but nothing worked. The Christians inside felt a calm unlike any before. They knew, deep in their hearts, that they were safe. Then, a sound filled the church, not a voice, not music, but a presence so strong it felt like the love of 1,000 hearts combined. Daniel felt a warmth spread through him, chasing away every shred of fear. Miriam's tears flowed freely, but they were tears of joy. Samuel whispered, "This is more than a miracle. This is love protecting us." Outside, the soldiers could not move forward. Their courage faltered, replaced by fear so deep it made their knees shake. One by one, they turned and fled, stumbling over each other in their panic. The villagers who had hidden in their homes peeked out and gasped, seeing the Christians standing unharmed, glowing in the soft, golden light. The Christians stepped outside, the morning sun illuminating their faces. They had faced death once more, and once more, they had been saved. Miriam looked at the village, at the faces of those who had witnessed the miracle, and said, "Do you see? No evil can touch those he protects. We are never alone." Samuel helped Daniel climb onto a low wall to see the surrounding fields. "Remember this day," he said. "Remember what you felt, what you saw. No matter what comes next, Jesus is stronger than anything." Daniel nodded, feeling hope fill him like never before. That evening, the Christians gathered in the olive grove near the edge of the village. They prayed long into the night, not just for themselves, but for their enemies. Miriam led them. "Let us pray that those who seek to harm us find love in their hearts, just as we have found protection in his." The stars twinkled above, and a gentle breeze whispered through the trees. It was as if the world itself had paused to honor the courage, faith, and love of 50 ordinary people who had faced impossible odds and survived. Miriam looked at each friend, each neighbor, and whispered, "We have seen his power, we have felt his love. And no matter what happens tomorrow, we will never forget this." For the first time in weeks, the village felt a sense of peace. But deep down, the Christians knew that the greatest challenge had yet to come. They had survived grave threats, soldiers, and fear itself, but a final test of faith awaited, a moment that would show once and for all that love and courage, guided by Jesus, could conquer anything. The night was unusually quiet. The villagers whispered that even the wind seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what was to come. Miriam, Samuel, Layla, Daniel, and the other Christians knew that the greatest danger was not behind them, it was ahead. The soldiers had regrouped. They were smarter, more determined, and hungrier for revenge than ever. The 50 Christians gathered in the center of the village, hands tightly clasped, hearts beating fast but steady. They had prayed through sleepless nights, faced death more times than they could count, and seen miracles beyond human understanding. Now, they prepared for what seemed impossible, facing the soldiers one last time. Daniel clutched Miriam's hand, his small fingers trembling. Will we survive again?" he whispered. Miriam knelt beside him, her eyes shining with love and courage. "Yes, Daniel, he has always been with us. We trust him completely. We will not fall." Outside the village, the soldiers advanced, their boots pounding the earth like thunder. The Christians could hear them coming, smell the smoke from torches, feel the tension in the air. But instead of panic, a strange calm settled over them. They knelt in the square, praying with every ounce of faith in their hearts. "Lord, protect us, make us strong. Let your love shine brighter than their hate," Miriam prayed aloud. Lila's soft voice joined hers, Samuel's deep tone added strength, and soon 50 voices rang out together, a chorus of unwavering faith. Then, something unimaginable happened. The sky above the village lit up, brighter than the sun, golden and warm. The soldiers froze, shielding their eyes. A sound filled the air, not thunder, not wind, but the voice of love itself, gentle yet powerful. "Fear not. I am with you." Daniel's eyes widened. "Jesus," he cried. Tears streamed down his face as warmth spread through him. He felt no fear, only courage, only love. The other Christians felt it too. The invisible shield of protection that had saved them before now surrounded them completely. The soldiers charged, but the ground beneath them turned soft, like thick mud, slowing every step. Weapons slipped from their hands. Horses stumbled. The villagers watched in awe as the men, once terrifying, were now helpless against a force far greater than anything they had known. Miriam stood tall, raising her hands to the sky. "See, he is with us. Nothing can harm us when we trust him," she shouted. Layla fell to her knees, crying tears of joy. Samuel hugged Daniel tightly, and all 50 Christians joined hands, feeling the miraculous power around them. Then came the final miracle. From nowhere, the ground shook gently, and a river of sparkling water appeared in the village square. It flowed around the Christians like a protective circle. The soldiers tried to step forward, but the water blocked them, sparkling and bright, impossible to cross. Panic filled their hearts, and one by one, they fled, leaving behind every weapon, every ounce of anger, and every plan to harm the innocent. The Christians stood in the river's glow, unharmed, hearts pounding but overflowing with gratitude. Daniel looked around at his friends, at the villagers who had watched everything, and whispered, "He really is with us. He saved us again, and again, and again." Miriam hugged him tightly. "Yes, Daniel, he will never leave us. Not in danger, not in fear, not in life or death. We are his, and he is ours." Samuel smiled at the group, his eyes shining with tears. "We have seen it all. Death could not touch us. Evil could not destroy us. Faith and love are stronger than anything in this world." The villagers slowly came out of their hiding places. They marveled at the miraculous river, at the golden light that still lingered, at the Christians who had faced death and survived. No words could describe the awe. The fear turned to hope, the despair turned to courage. That night, under a sky filled with stars, the 50 Christians prayed together. They did not pray for revenge, for fear, or for the soldiers. They prayed for love, courage, and faith to remain strong in their hearts forever. The village felt a peace it had never known. The fear that had once ruled the streets was gone, replaced by a deep, unshakable hope. Unwavering, eternal love was stronger than anything in the world. They had faced graves, soldiers, terror, and darkness itself. And yet, they were alive, unbroken, their hearts full of faith, their spirits soaring higher than ever. The story of that day, of that miracle, would live forever, a testimony of courage, love, and the unshakable power of Jesus. Summary. In a small village in Iran, 50 Christians are captured by cruel soldiers who order them to dig their own graves. Despite fear and exhaustion, the villagers hold on to their faith in Jesus. Time and again, they face danger, armed soldiers, relentless threats, and moments where death seems certain. Each time, through prayer and unwavering faith, Jesus miraculously protects them, stopping the soldiers, shielding them with light and invisible power, and even creating a river of protection around them. Through courage, love, and trust in God, the Christians survive the impossible and inspire their entire village with hope and faith. Their story becomes a living testimony of divine protection and the power of unwavering belief. Moral lessons. Faith over fear. No matter how dangerous or hopeless a situation seems, unwavering faith can bring courage and protection. Power of prayer. Prayer strengthens hearts and can bring miracles in moments of greatest need. Love conquers evil. Love, guided by God, is stronger than hatred, cruelty, or violence. Hope is eternal. Even when facing death, hope in God can transform fear into strength and despair into courage. Courage inspires others. Standing firm in faith, even under threat, can inspire communities and leave a lasting legacy of hope. The end.